6:31, you're watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Angela.
Let's take a look at today's front pages. The Times reports on Sunak preparing for a battle with the courts over plans to prevent migrants who have reached the UK illegally from appealing against their deportation.
The Mail gives light to Lancashire Police's assessment that Nicola Bulley may have fallen into the River Wyre after trying to retrieve her dog's ball.
The Eye paper draws attention to a hormone replacement medication shortage impacting the lives of millions of women across the UK.
The Telegraph has the government's declaration that online misogyny should be banned.
And in the Mirror, we are told that Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Celebrity Special has been shelved after female stars refused to work with Clarkson amid his Meghan Markle comments.
And finally, the Star is telling us about a psycho owl that's holding us hostage amid a series of attacks in the Black Country.
Well, time to go through some of those stories and the papers in general now, because joining us this morning is the writer Candace Holdsworth and radio and television broadcaster David Hamilton. Gosh, it is great to see you both, actually. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good to see
David,
you.
lovely to see you.
Yes, and you too. Last time we were on Amazing Grace together.
We were, and we are both still grey.
We are.
We are, indeed.
And still here.
And still here. David, you are looking at the story which is really still making headlines everywhere, and that is the one in the Mail about Nicola Bulley.
Yes, I was having dinner with some friends last night. We were all talking about this. This is quite extraordinary, isn't it? And you know, very harrowing story that this young woman has disappeared into thin air, it seems. And the latest theory is that she may have been trying to retrieve her dog's tennis ball from the river. Now, Stephen, this is almost your neck of the woods.
It is, yeah. I've got a family just very close.
Do you know this area?
I don't personally, but my husband does. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to us. The police seem to be making assumptions. Where's the evidence, we keep saying?
Well, there isn't any evidence at all, and it's gone on for such a long time. And when somebody disappears into thin air like that, can you imagine how it is for the family, you know, for the parents, for the partner? I mean, it really is, it's so stressful. And if this is the outcome, then obviously it's going to be a tragic one. It's the River Wyre, which I think flows into Morecambe Bay. And I think Morecambe Bay is about 10 miles away, so they've got a fair bit of river to explore. But looking at the pictures that we've seen on television, it doesn't seem like a really big, fast-flowing river. No. And so I think, you know, if she was in the river, it would be surprising if, I mean, it doesn't seem like a... Who knows? I mean, that's why I asked if you knew that particular area.
But we've been talking about this, and we were saying this. I mean, it is a headline on the front of the paper now that she went in after a dog's ball. Her dog is a Springer Spaniel, and anybody that's got Springers know that they live in the water. Why would she go in to pick up the tennis ball for a dog? And secondly, as we were saying, Stephen, she was wearing a full-length coat and a gilet. She was a strong swimmer. There's no way she would have done that.
No, and the divers have been there, haven't they, for quite a long time, and they haven't found anything yet. So, you know, we don't like an unsolved mystery, do we? This really is so spooky. I remember once walking my dog in Richmond Park, and my dog going missing for an hour, and you get that eerie silence, you know, that where is the dog? You know, what's happened? But with a human being, it's just magnified so many more times. And I just really hope that there is a happy ending. I can't imagine what that is going to be.
It's looking unlikely, sadly. Let's have a look at the Times, Candice, should we? And migration. Banning the appeals process for people who come to the UK illegally.
Yeah, so this is front page of the Times. The government wants to reduce the number of appeals that migrants can make because it can really frustrate the deportation process, as has been shown with the Rwanda plan. And this is one of Sunak's 5 pledges. So I think this is something he really wants to get on top of. This is going to be a big election issue. We will see. I think this is going to be really, really difficult. It's already met some opposition from some legal experts in this area. But I think if the government really want to get on top of tackling the small boats issue, this is the area they absolutely have to focus on.
It's very difficult. A lot of people watching and listening may say, yeah, well, right, this is how you stop it. You stop the appeals process. It sometimes seems that lawyers are using any which way they can just to get in the way. However, legally, what makes me uncomfortable is that legally an appeals process is an important part of what we have in the system, isn't it?
Yes, well, this is what they've been saying, because I think one of the tactics they want to use is they want to try and keep it as much outside the legal system as possible. I think there are provisions where you can do that. But as Adam Wagner, he's an expert on this area of the law, has said, the courts really don't like that if the government tries to bypass them. So yeah, there are proper processes and they have to be followed, absolutely.
Do you have any thoughts on this, David, on this story that's in the Times today? Or did you not have a chance to read it, I wonder?
I haven't had a chance to read it, but I think what we've had so far is we've had an awful lot of talk, and we now need some action, don't we? But I think, what we're hearing sounds good. Let's hope it happens.
Now, the story that has again taken your attention is in the Express. The next general election, Boris is saying tax cuts will win Tories the next election.
Yes, well, we need some good news, don't we? We need something to cheer us up. We've been so negative, but actually there are an awful lot of things to be positive about. And one is, do you know that the FTSE is now at an all-time high?
7,900, isn't it?
No one's talking about that.
7,900, I think, is what it's quoted at.
All the bad news that you hear, but there is good news out there. And
the Bank of England is actually saying that they are expecting inflation to come down, and that we might have just turned the corner.
Wouldn't it be a miracle if they could turn it round, the Tories, after all the bad publicity that there's been? And it looks like a mountain to climb, doesn't it? But where Boris is concerned, is he a help to the party, or is he a bloody nuisance, really?
Well,
as far as the Prime Minister is concerned,
probably the latter, I should think.
He's never going to go away, is he? And do you think he really believes that he's going to come back and be Prime Minister again?
No.
Well, I think if any of us could actually get inside the head of Boris Johnson, we might find an awful lot of quite interesting stuff going on in there. Does he think it?
It's problematic, this, isn't it, Candice, in the sense that, yes, tax cuts may well win the Tories the next election. Doesn't mean it's a reasonable thing to happen.
Can we afford it?
As much as we would all like it to happen.
Well, look, it worked for Theresa May in the Conservative leadership race, offering tax cuts. People do want pressure taken off their finances right now. It's a difficult one to square, because at the moment, I think the Treasury wants to build up as much cash as it can because we're going through difficult economic times. But if you want companies to invest, if you want them to innovate, one of the ways that you can provide incentives is through tax cuts. That is a very powerful way of doing it, especially for tech companies. They can really use that, just that little bit of extra cash for more runway to invest in more staff.
So that would be stuff like corporation tax?
Yes, I think so. I was reading recently that the government wants to invest more in the British microchip industry, because actually it's something that England is very strong in, and for security reasons it's good if we can produce our own microchips. But one of the ways that you incentivize companies to do that is through tax cuts, and I think that Jeremy Hunt and Rishi Sunak have sort of made that a little bit politically unfeasible by saying tax cuts would be stupid now, when actually they could be quite useful.
Isn't that what Liz Truss wanted to do?
Do you know, I was just looking for the quote there. There was a quote in one of the papers saying...
It's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, this may be a terrible thing to say right now, but was Liz Truss and Sunak, were they right?
Is she going to come back as well now? I think possibly.
Well, but it's interesting, because it's about... See, this is what I don't understand. Perhaps, she had a plan for growth.
Yeah.
Maybe it would have worked, maybe not. Who knows? Haven't got a clue. However, what it did is it spooked the markets.
Yes.
And the markets seem to be in control, in effect.
Yes, I think one of the problems is that they announced that very generous energy package on top of the tax cuts, and the markets weren't expecting that. That's why they got such a shock. But if they'd just been a little bit more cautious, they'd waited for the OBR to do the costing before they announced everything, probably the markets wouldn't have had the reaction they did, because Goldman Sachs even said, no, actually, these tax cuts can help grow the economy. So there was positive, there were people behind what she was doing, but they just announced too much at once.
Can I ask you about this story in the Mirror? Female celebrities refusing to work with Jeremy Clarkson. What's this all about?
Yeah, so this is a story in the Mirror about how the celebrity version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire might have to be shelved because female celebrities were angered by Jeremy Clarkson's column on Meghan Markle, refusing to appear with him, even after they had agreed to be on with him previously. So it shows that this is dogging him. Even though he's publicly apologised, it doesn't matter. Some people are just going to hold this against him.
Well, it's interesting interesting, David, because, I mean,
Yeah.
men and women are refusing to work with you and have done for years.
I was just going to say that if they dump him from Millionaire, I am available. But of course, they may be wanting an older man. I don't know.
Oh, I mean, what do you make of all of this? Because he has, I mean, look, he's outspoken. That's
Yeah.
why we like him.
Yeah.
He maybe took it a bit too far. I mean, it was a sort of nasty column.
It was a reference, of course, and those people who watched Game of Thrones totally understood where the reference came from one of those episodes where one of the female characters was made as a punishment to walk naked through the streets while the population threw whatever they liked at her. And it was a reference to that. But of course, if you didn't, it doesn't make it right to say it.
I think he went too far.
He did.
And I think his apology was sort of half-hearted, wasn't it, really? But yes, Stephen says, that's him, that's his personality. And we've got to be careful, haven't we, that we get to a point where no one can say anything. Because almost everything nowadays is offensive to somebody.
I can't imagine that his viewing, I mean, I don't know if it's true that the Grand Tour have dropped him on Amazon and all the rest of it. There's speculation on that. I don't know if it's true or not. But I can't imagine his viewing figures going down, which is surely what they actually care about.
Yes, no, I don't think his viewing figures will go down. I think there's just a sort of campaign that it is misogyny and it was unattractive and maybe ITV will do something about it.
You never know. Brings us to the next story, doesn't it? Which is wonderful. I love this.
Which one? Which one are you going for?
I'm going for the one that David wants to talk about in The Star. Tom Jones and Delilah being banned.
Yeah, well...
it's the music of your era.
It is, absolutely. And Tom is very upset about it. Obviously, the sentiments of the song are not great.
Yes.
And
it's Delilah.
Yes, Delilah, potentially, rather violent and again, misogynistic. But the thing about Delilah is that it's a very rousing song. I think it was Stoke City supporters who first adopted it, and then of course it became a rugby song as well. And it's a bit like Sweet Caroline, These are just very rousing songs that people love to sing on sporting occasions.
Well, I mean, the problem with this is that, they're saying they're banning it. However, you just know the crowds are going to sing it louder and longer than ever now.
Yeah. Oh, yes, of course, out of defiance, because they love the song and they don't want the song to be taken away from them. My feeling on this is it's not glorifying domestic violence. No one who sings it has got that in mind. They just enjoy the song. But also, I really don't think we should be in the business of policing art. There are plenty of songs that explore these darker parts of the human psyche, and we can do that in music and art. That's absolutely fine. I don't see a problem with that.
And there are, 50,000 people in the stadium in Wales. How are you going to stop 50,000 people?
No, people are going to sing it anyway.
Song.
They're just not going to play it. That's the point, isn't it? They're not going to play the song.
Backing track.
People, you can't stop people singing.
No, I'm just going to make it more popular than ever.
Where I go to, we sing Viva El Fulham.
Do you?
It's another very popular anthem.
Well, you're a brave man.
It's got to number 50 in the charts.
That high?
That high. Yeah.
Loving it. Just quick, because we've taken a misogynistic turn, haven't we, the last few stories. The Telegraph says online misogyny is set to be outlawed.
Yes, so relevant. Oh, sorry.
How?
Yes, yeah, exactly. So this is part of the online safety bill that's still winding its way through Parliament, and there are a few peers who want to bring in even stricter penalties for social media companies to crack down on misogyny, like fining them 10% of their global turnover, which is really onerous obligations. But as we've been discussing, people can't always agree exactly on what misogyny is. So there are some very clear examples where you can point to something and almost everyone will say, yes, that's misogynistic. But look at the Jeremy Clarkson column. Some people said it's a joke, it's a reference to Game of Thrones, whereas others just thought it was beyond the pale. So I think this is an issue with the online safety bill. Some of these things, these terms that they've used, like harmful or misogynistic, I don't think everybody always agrees on them. And I'm just so worried that the social media companies will take the most conservative approach possible to avoid these penalties and crack down on things which are actually pretty innocuous.
Is it thought police? in all of this. I mean, I'm not defending misogyny in any way, shape, or form. But are we having our thoughts policed as a result of all of this?
Yes, I think so. But it's very, very difficult to enforce this. This is the problem, isn't it? I mean, I don't do any online social media at all. I find it all, I mean, people who post all these things anonymously and can say anything at all. I don't know what you do about it, but I think it's quite awful sign of the times. When I was in my heyday, all we had was rude letters.
Yes. Are you
You've
aware?
kept them all. You've kept them all.
Yeah, I've stopped sending them now.
Yeah. Are you aware when you're on air of what you're saying? Do you have to think twice now,
Yes,
David?
absolutely. Things that I would have said years ago, I wouldn't say now. And what's lovely about this station is that this is one place when you can actually come on here and have an opinion about things. And there aren't many places that you can do that now. So this is a sort of, bastion of free speech, if you will.
Well, it is about free speech, but all views. I mean, nothing. Everything should be challenged and all views looked at. That's the thing. All views are valid, unless they're hateful, of course, which is a different kettle of fish. Candice, David, thank you very much indeed. We shall catch up with you both a little bit later on. Go and sing Delilah in the green room.
Well, hear it from here.
Well, why?
Well, here we go.
Had to get that in,
I shouldn't have
didn't you,
set it
David?
off.
You did.
But anyway, we're going to talk, David, about today marking a decade